To blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Sirus and Maryssa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, this is Blamestorming. I'm Maryssa Smith. I've got Dave Sirus with me.
Hi, I'm Dave.
I've got Maddy Smith with me.
Hey, what's up?
And I've got Crespo with me.
Hey, everybody, I'm here.
So, Dave, how was your week?
Good. I'll bet that announcer's name is Nigel.
It's possible.
He seems like a Nigel. I was fine. I was in L.A. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, how was L.A.?
It was great. That's where all my friends are. No offense, guys.
That's cool.
I never assumed that we were friends.
I mean, it's a relationship of convenience. But yeah, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Introduce people. I'm sorry. We should wait.
You were not paying attention because I had introduced people, but I will ask people how their weeks are going.
Yeah.
So, Maddy, how's your week going?
It's great. Yeah, nothing crazy. Just chilling, tired all the time. You know, the usual.
Just living life.
Being a woman in New York is exhausting.
Yeah, being alive at this point is exhausting.
Getting catcalled every day.
So much catcalling.
All those
that's the best part.
All those Italian men at the construction
Oh,
sites.
yeah, baby. Men and women now.
Want to describe the things they're going to do to you in detail.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you home and ask you to marry me in a nice way and let you have my mom's sauce.
Yeah.
I'll ask your father's permission first.
Oh, get him away.
If you're not from New York, that is uncannily accurate.
Chris, how was your week?
Okay. I've just been practicing just stuff that, new material and stuff like that.
Nice.
That's all I've been doing.
He's a stand-up comedian.
We're all
Yes,
yeah.
Oh my God.
We're all comics. Yeah, we are all comics. That is why we're all here today to Blamestorm.
Yeah.
So now, you guys, have any of you watched this Roseanne reboot?
Haven't yet. It's on my list of things to maybe probably never do, but I've heard it. You guys?
I watched it today because we're going to talk about it, and I wasn't going to. And the thing is, I watched the original show, and it is... it does seem like the original show. It's not like one of these like reboots where it's like, this is unrecognizable.
Fuller House
the
was
character.
like, what's happening?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, I mean, that's also because you were too young to know how horrible the original Full House was. Like, the original Full House was also an abomination.
Yeah. But
As the new one was. But you're right. It's
I
worse.
only
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
it for Uncle Jesse.
That's fair. But then, I mean, we can talk about the new Full House as long as we want.
We don't have to.
Because it is, it was an atrocity.
Yeah, it was really bad. Those tits, though.
Who's?
Stephanie's. She got big tits.
Oh, yeah. Well, she had
Yeah.
implants.
I know. Yeah, duh.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I mean, implants I'm not impressed with.
Oh.
It's like a corked bat, as they say.
Oh, I'll take it.
But no, but I saw the new Roseanne, and I'm prepared to be really angry about that for a while. If you guys want to get into that, because while the show seems the same, the character of Roseanne, if I were examining this as fiction, had a stroke. And has...
Well, I feel like the real Roseanne had a stroke. Like, didn't she, like, move to, like, Hawaii and opened up, like, a macadamia farm? And,
That's
like,
one of the things she did, yes.
And then she just, like, kind of dropped off the grid for, like, 5 to 8 years. And now all of a sudden she's just, like, this, like,
Oh God.
pro-Trump, like, propaganda
Well,
machine.
she fell off the grid if you weren't looking. Because she was on the grid if you were like me, and 5 years ago, remember when she put out a manifesto where she said, among other things, that Barack Obama is blackmailing Congress, Barack Obama is orchestrating school shootings to take away our guns, Barack Obama is being blackmailed by all the male prostitutes he frequents, and was born in Kenya.
Which one of those is wrong?
And that's where things start. You get that little negative attention for saying something provocative, and pretty soon you're just wearing MAGA hats and saying, this is me now.
Yeah.
So I just think it's incredibly hypocritical of Roseanne to insist that the Roseanne character share her love of Trump, but not her pronounced mental illness. Because that's why she believes these things.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like a level-headed supporter of Trump.
Yeah.
Right?
There
But-
are no
right.
level-headed supporters of Trump.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
why it's
My
bizarre.
mom is.
Yeah.
There
My
are
mom
some
is crazy.
gullible people
Is
who
she?
just believe in him.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
your mom supports Trump?
Yeah, my mom, but not just my mom. Like, everybody in my family voted for Trump.
Yeah, but
Really?
Yeah.
So, like,
Did-
how was Thanksgiving?
yeah.
I don't know. It's awkward because it's still Thanksgiving and I'm there.
So they must hate that you're a teacher.
What?
I mean, if they...
They must hate that you're gay.
You vote for fucking green once, and it's like, God damn it. God damn it.
Green once, gay forever.
But isn't Roseanne on the show? Isn't she like only a Trump voter, but then everything else she's liberal on?
Well, this is what pisses me off more than anything. So it basically seems like her plan making this show was, I'm going to... What she's doing is exactly what we think it is. Normalize being a Trump fan.
Right.
Because remember, she's a Trump fan for the same reason that she thinks Hillary Clinton's a mass murderer. There's something wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
There's something extremely dangerously gullible about her lately. And she makes the show liberal in the way of saying, see, I'm not just a Trump supporter. I'm saying that even if you care about black people and gay kids and transgender people, you should still support Trump even though he fucking hates those people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why her grandkids are a black child and what is ostensibly a transgender child.
Yeah.
Because that way she can say, see, I'm not the hateful person that you probably assume I am because I support someone who hates these people that live in my house.
Right.
So that's why she can say, well, I love Trump and I think I trust him, but I also love my transgender grandson who he wants to ban from getting jobs.
Right.
And I'm not racist. Look, I have a black grandson or granddaughter. I couldn't tell. I have a black grandchild.
Are they trans too?
No, they have a black grandchild, and that's why it's okay that I then attack Colin Kaepernick on the show and support people who
They did all of those in one episode?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
The
It
writers
is a
room
lot.
must have
They're
been
like,
a mess.
what else can we... Oh, my God. School shootings.
And what's disgusting about it is, look, Roseanne believes this because she's mentally ill. That's honestly what I believe, because she's acknowledged being mentally ill, and she's not a regular Trump supporter. She's someone who believes in fucking Pizzagate. She believes that there is a worldwide child prostitution ring going on in the White House, in Congress. She's fucking crazy.
But can we get a dollar slice? That's the most important question.
can.
Cost
You
us some
can.
hot kids.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, then.
they only have dollar slices here. They don't have those in D.C.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I'm sure Comet Ping Pong was like probably more expensive. But here's what really makes me like honestly fucking furious about this. This is what happened with Will and Grace too. They had the reboot. They made one of the main characters a Trump supporter because then they can have this controversy of people wanting to tune in to listen to it.
True.
But to watch it. But what that does is the exact same thing the news media did when Trump was running for president.
Yeah.
They're using this negative attention to get eyeballs, not caring that it normalizes the hate speech that they're trying to use to get people's attention with. And it creates this weird snake eating itself that's become our culture.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
that's
also-
why, go on.
Oh, okay. They also have to, like, when you sit in, like, a producer's room, they're probably like, how do we appeal to both sides?
Yeah, because we need every dollar we can get.
Totally.
Like,
So-
I kind of came to, like, all of these conclusions and without watching one episode. And I won't watch any of it. Like, I actually used to watch Roseanne when I was younger, but, like, I was too young to understand her or understand the show or, like, how fucking weird she was or anything like that. But, like, how do you possibly think that, like, because she has, like, a black grandkid that, like, she's not racist? It's just kind of, like, really ridiculous thinking. Like, I mean, I dated a guy who I believe is now a neo-Nazi. Like, you know, like, I saw him on Instagram and he's dressed like an extra from A Clockwork Orange.
Ooh.
Yeah, but he probably wouldn't have hated black people if you hadn't dated.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh
I
my
might have
God.
told him I thought he was gay a few times, but, you know,
It's like, I'm not gay.
it's like, why are you spanking to your best friend's picture?
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
Natural reaction then.
Oh.
After breaking up.
it's
Going to be a Nazi.
yeah, you know,
It's not that gay.
The show seems like the whole point of it is to normalize being a, not just Trump supporter, but like her, a fucking crazy conspiracy theorist Trump supporter. Because, first of all, on the show, they have Jackie as the Hillary supporter. Sort of. Because Jackie is this caricature of people who support Hillary because they won't let her actually have good points for why she hates Trump, because that would impugn the whole point of the show, which is to champion being a Trump supporter like the Connors are on the show. But she also voted for Jill Stein. That's the whole thing about it. They had the because it's not what's more important than supporting Trump is just reinforcing
propaganda?
the hatred of Hillary.
Right.
But yeah, Russian propaganda, because
Totally.
Roseanne, like almost everyone who believed those propaganda articles, they would rather live in the world where they're true than have to acknowledge that they were fooled. So they would rather destroy the whole goddamn country than just live in the world where they were this gullible and they made a mistake. And look, like I said, Roseanne believes that all of Congress knows that children are being brought into, like, you know, if just for a second, if they were systematically having sex with children for money in Congress, do you really think they would do it in the building?
No.
You don't think they would have a little more wherewithal to go to a separate place like a pizza? Oh my God.
Oh.
This is how these things.
You're supposed to be diffusing this, Dave.
No, I mean, it just really makes me sick to watch the way that they're trying to say that Trump support is now, it's just like every other political campaign.
I thought that's something we really like. Okay, so like a little bit after the election, everyone was like, let's try to understand them. There was all these think pieces about like, here's what you don't get about middle America. Then all sorts of shit went down within the last like year. And we're all just like, no, we have no sympathy for that side anymore. Too much shit has come out.
Yeah.
So now that Roseanne's like, okay, well, it's a little bit fucking late, right?
Everything we were called reactionary for believing Trump would be like, he's been like.
He's filled all the boxes.
He has been a complete lunatic.
Yeah.
I was upset when he won because I thought, oh, you know what's going to happen now? They're going to keep him under wraps.
Yeah.
He's going to do all these things that the neocons always wanted. Yeah. And then we're going to have this mentally ill idiot in charge. But now, like, oh, no, they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even keep a lid on him.
Incredibly untethered.
And now he's more untethered than ever. That's why he got rid of John Kelly, because he felt like he wasn't getting enough control.
Right.
Because he's a child who can't deal with this job.
Oh, yeah.
And it's coming more and more apparent he would rather the world stop existing than him not be in charge of it.
Right. So for Roseanne to come out now, I mean, maybe if it came out like a year and a half ago.
Maybe.
There would be less. There'd be more of an argument to make that we're being reactionary.
Yeah.
But for her at this point to say, I love trans kids and I'm against racism and I love Donald Trump comes off
pandering,
incredibly hypocritical.
After Charlottesville, after all this fucking,
and then she there was photos. She did this photo shoot as Hitler, like baking like burnt Jew cookies.
That didn't bother me.
That bothered me
as the only Jew here. I had no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, because we didn't do this part of the show that we always do.
Were they
so,
chocolate
like for
chip?
the people that are listening, Dave is Jewish, you guys.
They can probably tell that from my voice. What they
You
can't
always
tell is
think
that
that.
you're black.
Well, now we've got it covered. There you go.
I just need
I am
people.
too.
I need people to know. As you can tell by Maddie's voice, she is absolutely
well, we're
the
both
whitest.
Smiths, so we're sisters. There you go.
Maddie looks like a really well-made butter sculpture.
Oh, thank you. Honored.
You look, Maddie. If you're picturing Maddie, is what I assume every Wisconsin beauty queen looks like.
Oh, yeah, I'm like a fucking 12 out of 10 there. I go there and like dudes just start jacking off. They're like, she's so pretty.
And Chris is Cuban.
Yeah.
So we really hit our bases today.
Totally normal guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Hola.
Nothing wrong.
Okay, but now we have to say it because we're going to confuse the people
He has
listening.
no legs.
Oh, damn it, Maddie.
No, he does have legs.
We
They
wheeled them
just
in.
don't look like human legs. That's
Yeah,
not,
exactly.
No, Chris is
A human T-Rex.
Yes.
Chris is
I've had an X-ray of me from the chest up, and it is the funniest thing ever.
Well, I should so our audience understands.
It looks like cooked pasta.
Chris's mother did not respond to a chain letter while pregnant, so now
She was like, "What do I? AOL? I don't even know what this is."
so Chris is.
It was 88.
Yeah.
So Chris is a little
what?
disabled. That's
shit.
But that's that. And if you watch his roast battles, you can see people laughing about that.
Yeah.
Both for and against you, though.
Oh yeah,
It's great.
it's fun.
Which, by the way, I did want to, just because we brought it up, we also mentioned that you, of course, are a teacher.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we're
Sub.
allowed to say that.
Yeah, I'm a
I won't say
sub.
where.
Yeah.
But so actually, this is something we could bring up, the whole idea of, they want to give guns to teachers. You probably have a unique perspective about that. Would you want
Finally have the right to bear arms.
Would you want to have to
know,
carry?
right, Maddie?
Would you want to have to figure out a way of somehow carrying a gun if the school board wanted teachers to have guns?
If it were me, right? Like if it was just, all right, give Crespo a gun, he's the teacher in some classroom, I would be terrible with a handgun. And so a handgun would be useless for me. I'm actually better with a rifle.
Have you shot a rifle before?
Yes, I have.
Wait.
That's terrifying.
Okay.
Yes, I have. I've shot a rifle. The first gun I ever fired was a Colt M1911. The ones that were standard issue when you were in the military at the time. And I couldn't handle that because
Because you don't have hands.
Yes, and I dropped it.
They should not have let you do this.
Yeah.
I was at a shooting range. I paid $100.
And the
I'm not
guy
going
there
to
was
leave.
like, well, I'll take anybody.
They
Fuck
should
it.
not have accepted your money.
They
In fact, they should. If anything, they should have let you shoot the gun for free.
I know, but I had
And
to pay
live
for the
streamed
bullets.
it.
Yes.
Would have paid for itself. I'm sorry.
I literally, but I did better with the rifles than I did with the handgun. I didn't need assistance with the rifles.
Okay.
So
Because you can use both arms to kind of balance it.
Yeah, and then plus I could use my shoulder to balance the weight.
Oh, yeah.
The problem was that the rifle that I'm really good at is the AR-15.
That's a bad one.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with using an AR-15 at a gun range.
They're never going to give me that.
Yeah.
Never. But it was. But I don't know. I think that giving teachers guns is not an appropriate. I don't feel like it's appropriate, but at the same time, like I believe in the Second Amendment, so it's like I don't think that's not gonna solve a problem, especially in the educational field. Like you have to. When I was going for my master's on this, they say like you have to make a very clear, safe educational environment for the students, and having a weapon in the classroom, it's already, even if it's locked, there's tension. Mm-hmm. So if anything goes wrong, and I've been in rooms where, you deal with teenagers and little kids. With little kids, it's like, it's okay. But when you're dealing with a teenager, let's say in a lower income, school district where they're not going to have any money, everybody's like literally taking whatever's on the wall, it could be a problem. It could literally be a problem.
And I don't think it could even be locked away. If we're really talking about having this for school
you
shooting,
have to put it in your holster.
You need to be ready.
That's ridiculous.
Right, because you never know when a shooting is going to break out.
You need a 1,000-yard stare as you're like teaching math.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous because you can't just go from teaching math to Rambo like that. You have to put the kids in a safe place where if you go to the thing about a school shooting drill, it's called a lockdown drill. You go into the closet. If for little kids, they go to the closet and then you're supposed to shut the door in the closet. And the kids still giggle and have all shits and giggles in there because they think it's a drill. I can just imagine having the real thing happen, and then it's just this chaos in the room. And then on top of that, you have to sort of take defense positions in a classroom, which in and of itself is just a square room. And you have to basically make a defense for yourself with the desks that are made out of wood and plastic. And you have to sort of make a little thing so in case
everyone
the
would
guy
have
starts
died
shooting.
by now.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
Yeah.
It's
Like
ridiculous.
you can't make a sniper's nest in home ec class.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is like there's no way. I mean, maybe you could defend yourself in shop class, but what's a 4-year-old going to do with a hammer?
Well, in Pennsylvania, they're giving the kids rocks.
I saw something about that.
Which
Rick
is like-
Santorum is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And
Was that Rick Santorum's idea?
yes,
Are you
he's
sure?
retarded.
That was Rick Santorum?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
On CNN, and then he was no, he was doing.
He was
CPR.
the one who said, I was going to say, he was the one who says CPR.
But CPR doesn't do shit. You have to.
It was the Philadelphia
You
guy.
need in order to stop a gunshot wound for that type of rifle, you need there's this thing in the military where it's a tube and there's cotton inside, and you're supposed to put it in the gunshot wound and inject the cotton in. It's supposed to.
It sounds like a tampon.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like a tampon.
Yeah, the
it's a
men are
gigantic
like, this is
tampon.
genius.
It's just like, it's a tube and there's cotton. It's like, a tampon?
No, that's a pearl.
I would like to see, I would like to see which school shooting victim's life would have been saved by mouth to mouth, because that doesn't really apply when there's already holes in you.
Yeah, you're about to blow out some blood.
No, you would need like a medevac helicopter.
Yeah.
And you also need to stop the bleeding really fast.
Rick Santorum and the guy. I mean, I don't know about the guy with the rocks, because I almost thought that guy was kidding as a way of mocking.
Yeah, me too.
But I heard he
Pennsylvanians
really
are
does want
retarded.
buckets
That
of
sounds
rocks.
like an
Yeah,
Onion
no,
article.
because it's just like, if there's a will, there's a way. If you throw a rock, you're going to stop a shooter.
I don't think we should be mocking this guy, because it's a better idea than giving the teachers guns.
Well, giving me a
I
gun
say
would
mock
not
the
work,
guy and
but-
fuck the guns at the same time.
Honestly, Chris, I want you to have a gun exactly as much as I want all the other teachers to
Yeah,
have
you're
guns.
you're just like one of them.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Thanks, Maddy.
It's just it really is.
No, but
I hate the idea,
I
because
just-
I think when you give teachers guns, you solve the problem of where does a school shooter get the gun to begin with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not
Walk
gonna-
up behind the
So-
teacher, hit him with one of the
Yeah.
rocks in the corner, and take
The
his gun.
rocks, the
Now,
rocks.
now, Chris, if they were to give you like an extra bonus, like in your salary for
They'll never give me a bonus.
Yeah.
Teachers never get bonuses.
Well, this
You guys
is
get paid,
they're
like,
That's
for
already-
their
that's
for the
already-
shooting bonus. Like they're talking about a shooter's bonus. So like if you're a teacher and you agree that you'll take shooting lessons, they're going to give them bonuses.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
So if
Interesting.
you had the opportunity to take the shooter bonus,
Mhm.
like and you know, with the understanding that if your school was to be attacked, that you know, you would bear arms. Like, would you be interested in doing that? I mean, you've done
Yeah.
some sort of shooting, so I mean, you're kind of
Yeah.
halfway there.
Yeah and no. You also have to know where the attack is coming from because location is everything. So if you're with a gun and the shooting's in the hallway, you're not going to go out in the hallway in an open field and open fire.
Yeah, but would you take the lessons if it gave you a bonus?
I mean, I would take the lessons for I would
Yeah.
do anything for a bonus,
Especially
Maddie.
I know
because-
he's a teacher.
Well, teachers are getting paid less and less anyway. They're not going to be
Yeah.
able to write off their
You want me to
supplies.
take a
They're gonna
bullet
have
for
to take-
25
Yeah.
grand? No.
Yeah, they're going to have to take these lessons because teachers are getting paid less. And it reminds me of the same reason why after AIDS started existing, they stopped paying homeless people for blood. Because it meant you got the wrong blood. Just like you
Yeah.
shouldn't have people guarding schools who are doing it just because they desperately need the money.
Well, that was
Right.
another thing.
He should only give blood for the cookies.
Wait, you have a thing about
Yes.
blood with
No,
AIDS?
Fig Newtons.
no. It's weird because it's like if you give, you also have to understand like the person that you're arming as well. Like my brother is also he's a security guard at some club.
Do
and
you
he
guys
would-
look alike?
No,
Okay.
they're not. But he talks about how like he has retired cops with him as coworkers.
Okay, yeah.
And they don't do shit whenever
Hmm.
there's a fight going on. He's always
Oh.
the one that has to break up the fight,
Hmm.
and they're just like, "Yeah, we need backup." So
Well, that
you
sounds
don't
like
want
Parkland all over again.
yeah,
Yeah,
but you
right?
don't want a guy that's like Howard with a gun waiting in some corner and then going, "Oh, you came. All right, so then I'll go and I'll take the back." You know, you don't want that guy. But at the same time, it's like if somebody doesn't know what they're doing in a situation like that, because that's like almost like that's SWAT training in a weird way to clear a room, to take control of the situation. That's what you train SWAT people to do.
When you think about, just think about, the last teacher you had in high school that, you
He would-
remembered.
no.
And just picture that guy getting military training with a gun. Like, these are
Insane.
already people I didn't trust. I didn't trust these people with my report card,
Yeah.
with our futures. And
Mm.
yeah, we're trying to look, we're just watching people try to shoehorn an argument that lets them keep every gun they want.
I would
Yeah.
have totally trusted Sister
I don't-
JB with a gun, though.
I don't
'cause,
mind-
she was on top of everything.
I don't mind people with guns. I just mind the fact that whenever there's a mass shooting, everybody thinks it's an okay idea to arm teachers. I'm like, all right, the armed police officers in the building, that's fine. Granted, we had a coward in that one in the parkland that just waited for thing to happen, but that's the right response for that.
Yeah, to have trained people whose job it is
Police
to protect
officers
people.
are trained to go into situations and protect people. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't
You
think
can-
anyone's against just having more
but,
cops in school.
Yeah, but the problem is that now we have a situation where that's normal. Where when we were growing up, that wasn't normal. When I was growing up, I barely saw a cop in grammar school. Now I see a
you
cop
see
everywhere.
him and be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, you would see them because a kid got in trouble or brought a knife to school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you would never see them in the hallways like I normally do when I go to work.
Right.
And now we see, just like now at every airport, there's guys walking around with M16s and flak jackets, and that would have been weird before. And
Yeah.
now it's like we feel better that they're there.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why have we not gotten to the point where something, we need armed people at the movie theater, or
No.
we need armed people at concerts. It's just literally we're acting like the shootings only happen at schools, so we need to arm teachers, but then there's shootings in other places and we're just oh well, people just get shot at concerts, that's okay.
But the thing is that we're not looking at where violence when people look at a mass shooting, right? They're not looking at the culprit. Let's take Parkland for example, because that's the most recent. The guy had
It's not, but
well,
but go on. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There's been like 70 cents.
Yeah.
Okay, but like I'm just saying, like now.
Yeah.
Okay, the guy had mental issues, was reported numerous times, and then he was just left to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And the problem is, we're not talking about like how the system failed him that led to that point.
Oh, the system failed him, but also you talk to the kids who knew him, they all said he was a fucking lunatic. They all said he was dangerous. And the thing is, you're right. They did report him.
But
what do you do?
The school has to provide services, mental health issues for that. But on top of that, it's like there are no mental health services for that because we keep cutting that.
And you're right.
And then on top of that, when we have these problems, it's like, oh well, let's take away the gun. But the gun was the last problem,
the last stage this issue.
It built up to this point where there was no way out for this guy. This was the only way out for this guy.
Well, this kid, like a lot of people, I think there was a way out. You could have been a loser. You could have just been a guy who's not happy, or you know what? You could have done what normal people did in the situation up until recently, and just kill yourself.
Yeah.
Just take yourself out of the equation and not take people with you,
but then
like
you
a
have
selfish
another
bitch.
suicide. Then you have another suicide statistics with guns on
I'll
top
take
of
a
that.
suicide
I'm okay
over
with that. Yeah.
That's true.
shooting, yeah.
I consider that negligible. But what I'm saying about this kid is when people say we needed to report people and that they needed to take the report seriously, they're correct. But the thing is, what do you do when someone's reported for being crazy? You can't just lock them up because people say, I think he's going to be a killer. The one thing they should be able to do is not let him have a gun, which was not the situation, wasn't the law.
Well, the FBI failed twice to get that guy.
But what
yeah,
could
but
they
he
have
was
done?
also able to get a gun.
Well,
legally.
in
Yeah.
Florida, it's ridiculously easy to get a gun.
Yeah, that's
also
why we
in
should
Pennsylvania,
regulate them more.
and
But this kid didn't do anything that the FBI had a legal right to
Yeah, he made
detain
like
him
one
for.
That's
YouTube
true.
comment and had a creepy Instagram. Then
Right.
what? We're all gonna go after every creepy Instagram kid? Like
That's
that's
true.
a million
That's
people.
the thing. We
But
can't
if
really
it's-
do
the
anything.
FBI
But
time.
if he was violent in the school, if there was a violent incident in the school, then the state has to take control of that.
Yeah,
The
but he wasn't
problem
even a
is-
student anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he was kicked out. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't like the problem with that is you can't just say when a school puts someone out of district, that basically means they don't want this kid anymore for X amount of reasons. We're having problem. There's a kid in one of my schools that I work in that he's violent. He'll kick you and punch you, but he's 6 years old.
What's his full name?
I'm not going to disclose that. But the problem is
You'll hear
that
from him soon.
the problem is that they want to move him out of district, and the problem is that when you do that, you're basically washing your hands of this kid's problems, and that's what every school does when they have a child that's violent. Granted, this kid is 6 years old, but if he was 16,
yeah.
he would be arrested. He'd have charges on him. He'd have all these things, and this is the state of New Jersey. So again, like the problems are more along the lines of like what it's reform when it comes to like mental health and educational systems. But at the same time, when you're talking about like gun ownership in a national level, different states have different laws. It's extremely hard for me to get a gun in my home state of New Jersey and in New York, but it's extremely easy. If I lived in Pennsylvania, all I need is a driver's license to get a gun.
It's insane.
And I can get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed that they let you drive.
Yeah, I drive.
Yeah.
No offense. And you drive very well. I just didn't know the logistics of it. But
Right. It's good to see for first time.
Yeah.
You know?
But no, I mean, you're right. We do have this big problem with mental health. And the thing is, when people who are really trying to protect guns talk about mental health, what it sounds like they mean is locking up everyone that anyone has called crazy because they don't want to take away their ability to own these guns. Because their whole argument is, it's the Bill of Rights. Mentally ill people have a right to the.
Now you're playing with fire because now you're dealing with mental disability, and
Right.
disability is protected by the ADA.
And we need the
And-
right to take guns away from people who have any.
This is a hornet's
serious
nest that I've had to talk.
And I want to
people have
kick
been
it.
asking me.
I want to kick this
Oh,
nest because
God.
the people who are trying to defend the rights of people who are mentally ill to own guns are fucking children.
It depends. Not all mentally disabled people are violent, but at the same time, I understand the argument. Like somebody that is mentally unstable that isn't violent. If somebody is mentally disabled, right, and has a history of schizophrenia and they're taking medication and they're normalized, that's one thing. But when you're talking about somebody who has a history of violence, that's another.
Well,
the problem is
I'm
when
gonna kind of like hit this hornet's nest a little bit more, and I'm gonna ask the two of you being Chris and Dave being the penis owners in the room.
Thank you.
Like, why is this such a male problem, and why do men feel the need to become mass shooters? And I'm going to say this because
I think
women
a lot of
have historically had a hard time in high school, a hard time in college. You've never seen like a sorority girl that like got roofied at a party and then had a train run on her and then just decided to shoot up a cafeteria. Like, that just doesn't happen. They become strippers like normal fucking people.
Yeah, I've never craved
like,
weapons.
I've never like if bad things have happened to me, I've never said to myself, you know something, I feel like shooting up a school. Like, that has never been a thought that has ever entered my head. But like, it seems like, and to be honest, I think that the first mass school shooting, maybe in the 70s, I can't remember
81.
her name.
I think it was past 81 was the first.
Yeah, I think
82.
it was like in the first one ever. I think it was, might have been like 77, 76. That was a woman. And then like subsequently, like every other mass school shooting has been male. And
it's fetishism. I think it's about the sexual. There's obviously something sexual about gun ownership, about shooting a gun. It's your dick. Everyone, I mean, we all know this, right? It's your dick. It's your your big, powerful steel dick that you're shooting things into. I mean, that's where when people talk about this need for guns, they're always afraid of just saying,
so like
I
the
just
bullets
like
or
them.
the jizz.
Yeah.
But,
yes, of course.
Of
course they are. Not all the time, but that's a big part of why
I mean,
men
a
love
knifing
guns.
I can understand because
knife-
like a knife I can be like, okay, like that's your steel dick and you're putting it inside of someone.
Well,
but like a gun, it's just like the gun itself is not causing the harm, it's the bullets.
I think men have more of a desire for that kind of raw power.
Yeah.
If you see, I saw that there's a documentary on the making of He-Man, the toys, and they talked about they got the idea from just watching little boys play, and they were obsessed with power. And the way little boys play, it's all about hierarchies and creating authority and telling people what to do, and that's why He-Man picks up his big sword and yells, "I have the power." It's an extension of that. About this, we're a predatory species. We were created. Men are bigger than women because we fought over them. Because human beings fought each other for women, and that's what makes that's when a species has a larger male than female. That's why we have, certain like genetic things where like there's more male. Like we see like a lot of people came from the same male because they were harems, and the biggest guy would get to have sex with all the women. That's like sort of old primate logic.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah, that too. Much later.
Genghis Khan was a
he sexed a lot of ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
What
yeah.
do you mean by sex? Like
not consensually.
Yeah.
It was.
No,
you're
not
right.
not at all. Not
Dave's
at all.
version of sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so romantic.
Genghis, we're all a little Genghisy.
Yeah, but Genghis had a fetish for power.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Definitely.
did.
That Mongolian bow, though, that was some shit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were the ones who figured out you could use your thumb instead of your two forefingers.
And they rode on horseback and fired the bow. Which
they were extremely efficient army.
I used to watch Deadliest Warriors, and I love that show, and it was
Me too.
like, oh my god.
No, yeah, I like
missed
it too.
that show.
I don't know why they stopped having that show. It was really good.
Yeah.
But no, what we're saying is like I think that it's a very basic thing that like people who love guns always try to make excuses for why it's about like values and protection.
Yeah.
But it's just, you just like it.
Yeah.
You just love the feeling of power that you could kill something over there by hitting your finger and this thing that kind of resembles your dick shoots something that kind of resembles your jizz, and then it can penetrate people. It will penetrate people, and it's like I remember reading a story about a cop who couldn't get his dick up for a prostitute, so he shot her.
What?
Like many years ago,
Really?
it was a
Yeah.
very
and then
story.
it came all over her face.
And you can't help but just be like, that's where we were seeing the rawest of emotions out of this
Whoa,
guy.
that's
That it was like,
crazy.
well, I can't do one. And I think that, like, look, I'm not saying I want to repeal the Second Amendment, but the problem is people who say they're supporting the Second Amendment are very dishonest about what it actually is.
Well-
because if you say you cannot have restrictions on which weapons. You're saying you have the right to nuclear weapons because this is the right to bear arms. You're supposed to be competitive with the military.
That's much for me. And in my opinion, like, first off, with values is like we do have not here, but in the Midwest and other places, there are hunting. People do go out hunting. Another thing too is that people kind of need guns to protect themselves in places that are not in an urban environment.
Also urban.
Well, yes.
If
you want to do it, okay.
Really, really poor.
Yes.
Guns are a huge thing.
Yes, but also people have to also understand that there are that you have to have the right to protect yourself. A pistol is fine. A .22 is fine. Or a Colt M1911, which I fired, a .45 caliber is fine. But, like, do you need a Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum? No. Do you need a shotgun? It depends.
Shotguns aren't the big problem.
If you were to take a shotgun, a pump-action shotgun, and go to a school, right, you would kill more people than an AR-15. The thing about an AR-15 is that it's heavy, especially when it's fully loaded. A pump-action shotgun, you load that up, it's not as heavy as an AR-15. Plus, when you open fire with a shotgun, you don't need to aim because it's just little pellets that fire out. And that will kill a lot more people.
But you're going to have max 2 shots before you need to reload.
A pump-action, you can get 6.
Okay.
So you could do some serious damage. And if you had an AA-12... which is a military-grade pump-action shotgun, you don't need to pump. And you don't even... The recoil on that is very, very weak.
Here, at the same time, though, every time I've played a shooting game, the shotgun sucks.
The shotgun is zero
always
range.
lose holding the shotgun.
Well, that's why you go into an environment. If you're going to use a shotgun to kill someone, you would go into an environment, crowd them together in a corner, and then open fire. That way, they're not going to go anywhere. And if they did,
like a school or a theater. Okay.
Yep. But again, an AR-15 is too heavy. That's why only 17 people died. Which the kid wasn't able to be a good marksman. You need to be able to have the strength to hold that weapon up.
Well,
otherwise,
Adam Lanza looked like an absolute. He looked like the weakest human being alive.
Yeah, right?
He was able
but
to
he was
somehow...
also killing like 4-year-olds.
Yeah, but he was doing it with an AR-15.
Yeah,
he was doing.
But
it with
also, when you go to a kindergarten class, if you're talking about Sandy Hook, when you go to a kindergarten or a small elementary school, pre-K and kindergarten are usually in the first floor, and if you lock them in, you're pretty much the classrooms are interconnected because they need to share the bathrooms. Yeah. And so that is much more tragic than, because it's 4-year-olds lined up.
But
and they don't know what to do.
Why don't you think that anything changed after Sandy Hook when
Nothing
we were
changed.
looking at like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds?
We weren't looking. You couldn't release those images.
Nothing changed for a reason. It didn't change because there's an industry out there to confuse people about what reality is. That's why there were so many people. See, the people who invented the idea that the Sandy Hook kids weren't really killed, those people know they were killed. Those are the people who think we need to confuse the simple out of actually looking at this objectively. And that's why they get millions of people to believe that these are just made up things.
Yep.
No one died. Everything's fine. You live in you live in the Matrix, and everything you don't want to think exists doesn't exist. And that's why Sandy Hook meant nothing. And that's why people are saying that the kids from Parkland are not real. That they're 30-year-old actors pretending to be students because they're that fucking desperate for ways to change the conversation.
But I feel like with the Sandy Hook thing that like we as a nation, as human beings, as individuals, that we should have like, even if we couldn't see the photo, just conceptualized being a parent of a 4- and 5-year-old that was shot down dead and said, something like this has to change. But like, it seems like these Parkland kids are definitely able to push the conversation in a way that the parents of the Sandy Hook kids could not.
Well, social media has been pretty huge.
That's because
social media existed when Sandy Hook happened.
but not this intensely.
5-year-olds don't have the wherewithal to become voices for this. What we're seeing with Parkland.
But the parents could have.
Yeah, but the parents aren't going to because with
they're
Parkland.
Grieving.
Parkland specifically, because the parents are not the people who are going to do this. The people who were survivors are going to do it because we found that we can actually harness the narcissism of 17-year-olds for something positive, which is what this is.
Very hot time for young kids on the internet.
Oh,
and that's what they're doing. And we've had women's marches that have been huge. So they were like, let's replicate that and do that with another issue.
The problem that I have, in a weird way, is that I feel like we're ignoring the mental health part of it. Like, okay, we want to take the guns that are, assault rifles out of the market, but you do that, you could still kill more people with a pump action shotgun and a pistol. You get 2 pistols and a pump action shotgun and maybe a hunting rifle.
It's kind of incremental. It's kind of like
those are still protected under the law, and you are able to buy that.
It's like when Roseanne says, "Well, if you get rid of Trump, you have Pence." Okay, well, that'll be the next thing we deal with then, won't it?
But
I think
let's get that done first.
Definitely one thing at a time.
But I feel like the fact that we're ignoring, in a weird way, mental health.
Because you know what
safety.
it is? We can't remove mentally ill people
No,
from
we
society,
can't.
but we can remove AR-15s from society.
I
That's like a
understand
lot. That's like an objective step that you can take that you can regulate that. But how do you say
but
we
the
gotta?
healthcare bill had to be funded, and there's a lot of things that are being cut from it. A lot of states are cutting that part.
Well, the people who want gun control are the same people who want more money for mental health, though.
Yes.
So we're talking about one enemy
That's
here.
understanding.
Yeah.
But that's just like maybe, for example, we'll just say New York and New Jersey, right? But we still have like 48 more states to
It can't
go.
be that many.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as an example.
States, sorry.
There's still states that are just still not funding this or too poor to fund it, like Mississippi and Alabama.
Well, they'll get federal funds.
They'll get federal funds, but then you have governors that won't accept them.
Yeah, well, they can go fuck themselves. I know I'm cursing a lot today. I'm just really upset about this.
Yeah.
Because we have a problem in this country where, yes, very conservative states don't want to take money just because it's all because they live in a world of perception. They don't care about the numbers as much. These are the ones who wanted to help Obamacare fail so that they could say it failed rather than help people who are just poor.
But allowing that to fail brought us these mass shooters.
Yeah, it did.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it did. And I just think that I don't like when people I don't like when people try to make it an all or nothing thing where if you put because there are parents of Parkland kids. No, I understand. For you, it's not. We see Parkland kids, who have like crew cuts where it's like you clearly had that before your daughter was shot, getting on TV saying, "In the name of my daughter, stop taking guns away." Which I saw that too, because that was a guy who saw the opportunity to say, well, my kid died, and that means that I get to have a voice here, and I'm going to use my voice to try to get more kids shot. I know he doesn't mean it that way, but that's like, because their politics says we got to keep these guns. And
he's also grieving. That's another thing.
But he also seems really that's Meadows' father, right?
The guy who was like, kids are dying because you're trying to push gun control instead of stopping this. It's a disgustingly... Is that the one
that was like talking about talking to Trump, like, my daughter died and I'm pissed, like Meadows' father? Because Meadows' father kind of creeps me out a bit. And I completely understand that he's grieving, and I completely understand that, like, no parent knows how to properly be in this situation because it's the most unnatural thing on earth to bury your child. But, like, his whole thing is like, he reminds me a little bit of like the father of the girl that was killed when she was like running in Staten Island, and it was just kind of like, we gotta find these motherfuckers and we gotta get. And it was just like, whoa, like I understand, like your kid just died, but like you're being like really like inappropriate.
Even his child's death is through the prism of his politics.
But it's a thing that's
how unchanged people can be.
Yeah.
Right. Hard to change, yeah.
But then again, you have also a situation that we've never had to deal with. We've never had to bury a child. And then on top of that, it's like you have to grieve, and then you have cameras in your face, and then you have people asking you about your politics, and you make terrible decisions off of that.
You know what it reminds me of?
You don't have a clear head because you're grieving. B, you have to do funeral arrangements for your child. On top of that, you have cameras all over the place asking you about politics in the time when that shouldn't have happened, and then you say the wrong thing, and then everybody just goes after you.
But I think he believes it. I think that on some level, and I know this sounds cruel, I think on some level he no longer has his daughter, but he still has his guns.
So
he can only really save one
Yeah, but at the same time, when you're that unhinged and you've dealt, people deal with trauma in different ways. You know, when people like it's one of those things that we talked about, the 1,000-yard stare. When soldiers go off to war and they come back, they may not have injuries, but they're not there. That person is not the same person that left, and you have to understand that that person is no longer in the room. I remember I had a professor, a writing professor, who was a Vietnam veteran, and he would just stare off blankly, and you would talk to him, and he'd be like, "What happened?" And he had to write everything down because that's part of his PTSD, and it's one of those things that you have to understand that like people deal with trauma in different ways, and we have to be a little bit more. We have to be a little forgiving at the moment right now for kind of these people, because we don't know what's happening behind closed doors with them, and we don't know who's the assholes that are pushing politics on these people.
Sure. But you know who wasn't grieving? The parents or the foster parents of Nicholas Cruz, the shooter from Parkland, because they're the ones who they couldn't wait to come out. The parent, no, I'm saying the people who were fostering
the ones that he was
kid,
living with.
The first thing they did was come out and say, "What do you mean he shouldn't have had a gun? He's an American citizen. He has every right to."
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because that's the kind of house he was in.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, he has a right, a Second Amendment right to have these guns. Like, no, we shouldn't have taken them away.
Yeah.
But like, I also feel like, and I understand what you're saying about the PTSD, but I also feel like we as a society don't understand or are not very forgiving. Do you want another one? Sure. Of PTSD in most populations, because like, I'd say, I've read an article and I can't remember the exact statistics, but I feel like there's like 60% of women suffer from PTSD, and probably like 90% of people of color suffer from PTSD.
Yeah.
But
yet those aren't the ones shooting everyone.
But
no, neither shoot everybody.
Likely people
to shoot everybody.
It's just
shootings,
like,
oh, the prom queen wouldn't let me go out with her, so I'm just gonna shoot up the prom.
It's a toxic masculinity problem. I know that's like such a buzzword, but it really is. This is about dudes who
but like
just so
black men are also
shooting.
Loads. Also like part of
where did this go?
Masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're men.
There's just as much of a problem of masculinity in every race.
Right.
The masculinity
is just tied to a dick.
Sexual violence and masculinity problems happen independent of any color. But yeah, in this country, the people who do mass shootings now, because mass shooting and terrorism are two different things. I know everyone likes to say like it's a racism thing. It's not. It's about reason. It's terrorism based on why you did it. Yeah. If you did it for a political reason, you're a terrorist. Dylan Roof did it because he sides with the KKK. That makes him a terrorist, no question.
Yep.
Elliot Rodger, the guy who was more of a men's rights guy, that was sort of nebulous because it was like if it depends on if men's rights counts as a political ideology.
That would be a terrorist
ideology.
That's terrorism.
It's a little bit more hard.
The
it's a little bit more
Austin
nebulous.
shooter
Yes.
just got labeled a domestic terrorist like today.
The bomber?
It really depends on what his reasoning was.
Well, he's a terrorist because he was going after black people and Hispanics.
Oh yeah, then absolutely.
He's a racist.
If it was having to do with white nationalism, if it was having to do with anything like that, it is
he's a fucking
terrorism.
terrorist.
Whereas mass shooting is more something when you're trying to just kill a bunch of people indiscriminately, or because it's like someone you knew. Like that's why the San Bernardino one was half and half. Mm-hmm. His wife was a terrorist and he was a mass shooter.
Right.
Yeah,
and they found each other.
Right. Oh, it's so romantic.
That's a love story.
They
for
found
the ages.
love in a hopeless place, you guys.
Oh God!
All right, so let's talk about something. Let's move on. I don't want to. We get way down here.
So lighthearted.
Yeah.
I want to do something.
Well, we're still like kind of staying on this topic before we take a break because we're going to take a break shortly. But did you guys see that? I guess both Roseanne and Laura Ingraham were attacking Hogue the
the David it's Hogg.
Oh gee, Roseanne doing something stupid.
I guess it's Hogg.
Well, because Roseanne believes that school shootings are not real because she is
retarded.
Well, I mean, that's not the word, but yeah,
cunt?
she's mentally ill. Well, maybe she is that.
Yeah.
But no, she is mentally ill. She's open about being mentally ill, but she refuses to acknowledge the fact that that's why she thinks that there are fucking crisis actors at these schools.
That's why you need to give them medication and access to health
She's on medication. She's rich. She has all the medication in the world. She's still fucking
She's just
crazy.
not taking it.
Well,
No, I think
she's.
This is her
Yeah.
doing. This is her operating at her best. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Laura Ingraham.
Oh my
the reason Laura Ingraham attacked this kid, David,
the Fox News person?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
is because Donald Trump has taught the right that there is no downside of acting like a childish bully. And that's why we have all these people attacking these kids, she's attacking him because he didn't get into a few colleges. Look, he's a kid. If you try hard, yeah, you'll find things to make fun of. But why are you making these children the only adults in this conversation?
Right.
You know how many people are trying to pretend that these kids aren't even really kids, that they're 30-year-olds?
Well, those people are usually the ones from InfoWars or fucking extreme right wing.
But there's a lot of those people.
And Donald
Yeah.
Trump
Yeah, but
called
they're
Alex
crazy.
Jones the day of the election and said thank you because now they're mainstreaming.
Well,
And
because
Roseanne is mainstreaming it too.
Donald Trump is just a fucking bully tool. He's a fucking tool. And if you find a way to bully him back, like the Stormy Daniels thing when she used that against him, that's the way to beat him. In order to beat a fucking bully, you got to bully him even harder. And you got to push him up against the fucking wall.
Right.
And you got to fucking, mess with his head.
Did you see what Meghan McCain said about this kid? How everyone is trying so hard to discredit this kid just because he's trying to say he doesn't want to see more of his friends shot? Meghan McCain came out and said, well, I think she tried to really kind of high road him and say,
Right.
well, you use a lot of curse words, and I just don't think that. She was saying that you can't be taken seriously because of all the curse words you use. You're using bleeping this and bleeping that.
her.
Oh, but guess what? What's on Meghan McCain's Twitter? The words "fuck cancer." So they said, well, that's the same word you just said that invalidates his beliefs, but you're saying "fuck cancer," and her reaction. Number one was to say, oh, well, screw you, you tentacle porn loving asshole.
Whoa.
Because the guy who pointed it out
Damn.
years ago was made fun of because they sort of screenshot where he had on his bookmarks that he liked, he had an anime site and he was saying, oh, it was
Well,
for research
you know
or
what?
whatever.
To be fair, anyone that watches anime is a loser.
Yeah, that's fair. But it doesn't mean that he's wrong about this.
Yeah, seriously.
But then she starts going on about, well, Fuck Cancer is a really important organization that does good work. And it's like,
Wow.
how can you be this much of a hypocrite? How can you live in this
Right.
world and not see how incredibly hypocritical that is?
Because
And
people don't want to be
Roseanne,
wrong.
tweeted a Hitler salute to Hogg or Hogue. I prefer Hogue. I mean, I don't know his pronunciation, but Hogue feels
It's got
less.
two G's.
Hoagie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she tweeted the words Hitler salute.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And what she was trying to say is that everyone who disagrees with her is Hitler. She wasn't saying I support Hitler.
How is the network
I
not
don't-
cutting her off at
Exactly.
this point?
Well, they did make her delete that tweet.
Right.
Actually.
But
Yeah.
that's just the tweet. That's
just not the
retarded.
person.
Because they just
Yeah.
want money.
Yeah.
Because they want, just for the same reason that John Goodman does not believe in any of this, but he's taking this paycheck and normalizing Trump. And by the way, one thing about this Roseanne that makes
I
about
love
the show,
John Goodman. I know this is that show's bad, but I don't know.
No, I
He'll take work.
He's great. And
He's
he doesn't
great.
need this either.
No, he
But I
does
think
not.
He just really wanted to do this, and it makes me really sad that all these people are selling this out. Sarah Gilbert especially.
Well,
who
that's
plays,
what I don't understand. Yeah.
We know that not only is she as a person anti-Trump, her character, the character she plays in Roseanne. Now, I'm the only one here who watched the show, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
She
Sell
went
out.
out of
Go
her
on,
way.
I know.
Yeah. She went out of her way. That character is in the middle. The character just wants her mom and her aunt to get along. That is bullshit. The character of Darlene would hate Trump so much she would never speak to her parents again.
Totally.
That's who the character Darlene was. And they are betraying everything about that. Jackie would have been one who argued with Roseanne
Right.
and said, I'm a nasty woman and I think Trump is an asshole. Darlene would have not spoken to her family anymore because
Right.
that character had real integrity and actually cared about things. If you know the show, it is disgusting to watch that character just be in the middle and not care one way or the other when she has a fucking transgender son. and to not care about Trump and what he's doing in this country.
It's called a paycheck that she needs at the moment.
She's on the View ripoff. She's
Talk.
doing fine.
Yeah.
She's the producer of the Talk.
She
so,
makes
like,
$4,000 a month doing the Talk.
Yeah,
she
it's
is
enough.
fine.
But she produces the Talk, and she also has Moonves as like his wife as like one of the. That show will never get canceled. So like John Goodman, I feel like maybe he made some bad bets and he's trying to cover it.
Oh no, he's doing great.
I feel like she's got this show that will never be canceled because she made the smart enough decision to make sure that Moonves' wife is on the show. He's never going to cancel.
That's
it.
a very good point. Though I'll tell you, I'm sure John Goodman has more money than her. He's been in a lot of really big movies over the last decade. So he's doing this because I think he loves the show. And I get that. I have no problem with that. And I think everyone's just sort of going along with this because it's worth it. And then they have to just deal with Roseanne. I mean, line by line, defending Trump, legitimizing Trump, attacking anyone, attacking Colin Kaepernick, attacking anyone who voted for Hillary, attacking anyone who thinks that there's a problem with Russia. She's mocking people who thinking that the Russia thing, as if we're still living in the universe where the Russia story could have been a witch hunt. Like there haven't been 5 people pleading guilty. Like we haven't indicted people. Like we just didn't find out Robert Gates was openly talking to Russian spies.
That's another thing too, is that the Colin Kaepernick thing is like it also attaches itself to the gun issue, because then you have that issue of like cops shooting unarmed black people,
right?
And that leads into that whole defense of like defending yourself against armed people, because that's another thing too. You need a weapon to defend yourself.
I don't think the cops.
Well, yeah.
Well, if a
I think
cop's
that's
being
going
a
the wrong
dick.
direction. See, I don't agree with that because I think that.
Well, you have a lot of videos of like minority people getting shot.
The more police
unreason.
But that's horrible. But the more
and
cops
racist
are
Justice
afraid of people
Department.
having guns, the more trigger happy they're going to be. We need to retrain and honestly get turnover with cops. The only way, the way cops things are going to get better is not going to be by arming the people that they're shooting.
No,
at.
it's not arming them.
They're shooting because they think they're armed.
But it's another.
And they're not. When they're not.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that they're always turning off the body cam. They're always, finding
because
excuses.
It's premeditated.
It is a premeditated murder. That's
they
the
need
problem.
to not be allowed to turn off their body cams. We need someone.
But they're doing it, and then they're having their sergeants back them up, and their captains back them up, and they're going to the press and being like, "We don't know how a body cam can be turned off. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know why?
Honestly,
you're being a fucking racist bastard." On top of that, there's been a lot of stuff where the Justice Department has turned a blind eye, especially with corruption in the police department.
Yeah.
You mean the Keebler elf?
Yeah. Jeff Sessions, of course.
Yeah, but he's not going to do shit. And the last time,
of course not. He's racist.
He's doing plenty. He's doing plenty to help him. Yeah.
Plenty to be a fucking asshole.
To make things worse.
That's the thing is what I'm trying to say is like you have issues like this. That's when I'm like the most pro-gun is like fuck those people. If the Justice Department is just going to do that shit, then there's no real. I don't care. Like that's the thing about that. It's just it's this animosity. And then of course when you do the Colin Kaepernick thing. And they twisted it over to be like, oh, it's about the flag. No, it's not about the flag.
It's nothing to do with the flag.
It's about
Nothing
the
at all.
fucking. It's about the fact that fucking cops are shooting unarmed people, especially minorities, and also people with mental health, like mental disabilities and other things like that, for no reason, and then getting away with it, and then having their HR department be like, well, it's tough to be a cop.
And by the way, that's why Colin Kaepernick is making the protest during the national anthem, because that's the one time he can get your attention.
Yes.
Right.
That's the whole point. And it's just like all these people keep saying about, you should protest. You should learn to protest in a way that's nonviolent. Oh, you mean like during the anthem?
Yeah.
But yeah, when she attacked Kaepernick, what we saw was, and I'm saying the joke was just her attacking Jackie. Like, what's wrong, Jackie? You gonna take a knee? And then all the MAGA fans in the audience started applauding because they loaded that audience with Trump people. By the way, they definitely
They had to.
They went out of their way to.
Not that I watched.
Who's going to go to
Who
Roseanne
else
right
would?
now?
Sell out.
Who
Okay.
else would? Yeah.
Jesus fucking
And
Christ.
but she's acting like someone who thinks Sean Hannity is funny. That's the way
Really?
Roseanne is acting on this show.
Right.
She's acting the kind of person who thinks she's acting like the kind of person, which is this new thing that exists now, that thinks anything that makes a liberal upset is good. Even if it doesn't help us, as long as you make a liberal angry,
tears.
it's this it's this insanely, just insidiously dark and nasty, hateful way of thinking
But it's
that they're
pandering.
just happy to hurt people.
It's pandering. It's the same kind of pandering if you were to do it in the liberal sense. It's pandering to the conservatives. And that's the problem. It's that it's not funny. It's just
I've heard
pandering.
I've seen a lot of liberal people say they like it
I don't care.
on the internet.
Like what? And how do you mean?
Like, oh, Roseanne presented some good. There was like jokes. It made her into a real person. It made us understand the other side.
Jesus.
There was like both sides, but I saw like some
And
people be
my
like, good
thought
jokes.
is
like,
any liberal that watched Roseanne can go fuck themselves, just like any fucking Trump supporter.
Yeah.
I did
Like,
it for
what
the show.
Fuck are you doing?
I did it for the show.
Except for Dave.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself, Dave.
No, I think anyone should have the right to see it and watch it for themselves. But it's the same thing with Will and Grace. How Will and Grace made the Karen character a Trump supporter. They're doing it to create buzz and controversy, which is why CNN and MSNBC showed all his speeches during the 2016 election, which is why he got elected, because we made people used to it, and we are in a very dangerous
Plus,
point
we
in culture
love train wrecks.
where
yeah.
negative attention has more positive than negative benefits for people, and that creates, I think, a sort of system that's definitely going to kill us all.
But
because if being a bad person gets you power, we are beyond fucked.
Well, we're all
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
die. But on that note, we need to take a little break. And when we come back, we will continue this conversation. This has been Blamestorming. We will be right back.
Peace out.
Bye.